Well, hello. Welcome back, Open Pagan Church. We are actually up and running today, I think. If I need to do any minor tweaks on mic input or anything of that nature, the background noise, I have tried to filter that stuff out about as much as I can, and I can tweak it as we go along.
Sounds great to me.
Alright, sounds good on Discord. What about Facebook? Anybody got any input from Facebook? We got Cindy and Michelle so far. Whoa, can't hear you.
Sounds good, Don.
Alright. Was that Cindy trying to break through this morning?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, she's up at 100%. I guess I can turn her up a little more there. Alright. Well, we're on our new system this morning. Thanks to the guys yesterday. Morning, Dave. Thanks to the guys yesterday that came out and helped me get all of this mess broke in and sounded up and hooked up and ready to rock and roll. Yeah. Sounds good. Dave says he's in the car and listening. Alright. So our topic today hit me last night while I was trying to decide whether or not we were going to do a broadcast today. I think we're good to go. But our topic, as you can tell, human judgmentalism. And why? Well, what the hell is it in the first place? Why do we need it? Well, we do, as humans. It's a very deadly thing. It can be an extremely deadly thing, human judgmentalism. Now, judgment, I found this morning, is not the same thing as judgmentalism. And I'll show you in just a moment where I get that. You can also Google it around and see exactly what the differences are if you decide you want to dig into it a little deeper. But through all of the years of working with pagan ministry and in my path of shamanism, I've always been the type of person to try not to judge others. I just typically don't judge people for the way they live. Now, you know, there are variables to everything where there's an extreme one way or the other, right? But judgmentalism, I found that to be a rather interesting word. Let's find out why. Alright, so what I want to do is, oh come on. Alright, hope everybody can see that okay. Should be big enough, I think, where everybody can read it. So, this is from a gentleman on the Washington Times. They do tend to relatively come up with some interesting articles that will make you think. Some of their stuff is a little out there, but then who's hidden? And if anybody over in Discord wants to chime in, by all means, feel free. But you'll notice he starts out opinion, columnist. Alright, cool. Like the rest of humanity, walk a fine line between judgment, holding people accountable to a standard we do not create, and judgmentalism, thinking ourselves morally superior because we haven't committed the acts of others. Now this is a line here that really kind of struck a chord within me, I guess. I've always been the type of person that tries real hard not to hold other people to my own standards, as it were. When you start talking about human judgmentalism, as in the definitions that are put forward, it can be deadly, because this is where our hate crimes come from. This is where human destruction comes from in entire societies. Excuse me. I mean, for thousands of years, societies have attacked other societies because they don't believe the way someone else thinks they should, or they don't believe the way they think they should. And when it comes down to it, human judgmentalism, I think, is very dangerous. Do we need it? Yes. Why? You might say. Somebody may say, well, Don, you talk about it being extremely dangerous and deadly to other people's way of life. You take the LGBT community, you take African American, Mexican American, you take anything other than a white Anglo-Saxon American, or white Anglo-Saxon anything, and you throw a little difference in there, and people are taught that judgmentalism is sanctioned by their church. Now, the interesting part is many mainstream churches, this is correct. You will hear many mainstream churches, and I'm not going to say, I don't want to get into Christian bashing, but a fact is a fact. More churches, more societies, and more circles that you walk into, they preach a judgmentalism of others. And it spans from, if you don't live the way I tell you to, you'll go to hell. If you don't do what the Bible tells you to, you'll go to hell. Well, I'm sorry, but if you do exactly what the Bible tells you to, you're going to end up in prison. A fact is a fact. If anybody's ever actually read the Bible from cover to cover, you will, if you live by the Bible, then you'll end your ass up in prison. If somebody's trying to say something, I apologize, I can't hear you. So I found this article interestingly enough that I wanted to cite it as part of our conversation because the guy does get relatively involved in his discussion of judgmentalism. And we deal with this every day in the workplace. I know I do. I know that there are a number of people, as we've talked about in the past, who have lost their jobs, lost their families, their way of life, their homes, because of their religious beliefs or their lifestyle. But when you throw in the twist of judgmentalism, thinking ourselves morally superior because we haven't committed the acts of others. Well, it kind of takes one down the rabbit hole. And I'm kind of going to go down that rabbit hole a little bit this morning. Has not committed the acts of others. Which acts? What acts would we be talking about? And that's where it gets dangerous. Because I'm going to be vastly different than anybody else who watches our broadcast and takes advantage of our pre-recorded videos. My ideas, my philosophy, my morals are not going to be exactly the same as the rest of the people that interact in Discord and that watch our broadcast. So, who draws the line? Who draws the line of thinking ourselves morally superior? Where does it come from? Well, let's step into that rabbit hole for a bit. If I think myself better than anyone else, I will quickly find myself judging others for their lifestyles. I don't do BDSM. And if you don't know what it is, Google it. But I also don't have a judgmental opinion of those that do. I understand the psychology of it, the draw of it. But then, in retrospect, I find myself very judgmentalistic of people that go out and commit mass crimes and attack schools. There's been a very bad influx of school shootings just this year in America. I have a very harsh personal opinion of the way that could be handled, but we're not going to go there. But there I go, finding myself practicing judgmentalism on others because they are infringing on others' civil liberties. They are infringing on others' safety. They're infringing on others' abilities to do things. And I don't know about you guys, but I find that rather destructive. And sorry, I had to mute the desktop audio. If anybody in Discord wants to kick up, let me know and I'll unmute. What you got?
Cindy's just saying that she has updates and then she's back.
No worries. But yeah, as long as the outside chats are going, I'll just keep the desktop muted. So what causes Or better yet, I think the question is, where do we find ourselves reserving the right to enforce judgmentalism upon others? Anybody want to rise to that occasion? Anybody?
Sorry, my brother and my husband are in here talking, and I didn't hear what you said.
That's all right. I was asking if anyone else wanted to rise to the occasion with their opinion of where they think they draw the line in judgmentalism against others, and possibly why.
I know that being raised Christian, I was very judgmental, and I had a lot of things that I needed to deprogram from. And I find myself sometimes falling back into that, and I have to stop and think, no, wait, I need to stop it, you know, and I have to draw back and remember that everyone has their own way of doing things, and just because it's not the way I do them, that's not right, you know. It's I have to stop my conceptions of how I was raised.
Well, see that you used a very important word there that we've talked about on this channel a million times, and that is the word stop. We have to stop ourselves from falling into that niche that human society, not modern by any means, it's been around since the beginning of human societies, where people have enforced judgmentalism on other societies. But I think, moreover, the question comes, and the question comes to beg, like I said a while ago, I have an absolute judgmentalistic philosophy over people that commit murder, commit mass murder, that attack a school full of children, or attack, I'm not Christian, but I'm not anti-Christian. And for people out there that claim themselves to be Christian and they attack churches, a couple of the churches that were attacked this year in 2019 were attacked because they were African American churches. And they were attacked by, quote, white nationalist Christians. What? Where the hell? How? And that infuriates me. But at the same time, the question begs to differ. Where do we draw the line in the sand? Where do we say, okay, I'm being judgmentalistic of a sect of people, or I'm being judgmentalistic of a terroristic sect of people, but that's okay. I can judge them, but I can't judge and it causes one to start to flip behind someone's eyes when you think about the reality of the damage that can be done by enforcing judgmentalistic attitudes. So, what are y'all's thoughts on that variable? Anybody? think Cindy was trying to say something. Cindy, we can't pull you out.
Can't hear me still?
Turn it up just a little bit more.
All the way up.
Ah, there you are. All right, go for it. What say you?
And humanity, like you said, the church schools, how do they stop that? How can they not be judgmental on people doing things?
Well, let me come at it from this way. I had an occasion to have to go to the courthouse Thursday, and as I went into the courthouse, of course, here in the county in which I live, their security is relatively tight. I'm fine with that. They had the booth set up. You went through, the body scan. Your pocket stuff went into. It's just like airport security. Anybody that's ever been through airport security. And I thanked the security people for being there. And the little lady that was running the booth that I went through, she was taken aback. She was like, "Thank you." She said, "You would be amazed at the names that we get called for trying to keep people safe." I said, "That's exactly the reason I love you guys being here." I mean, Joe Blow off the street doesn't need to bring a gun into the courthouse. I'm sorry, that's just my personal opinion. If you're going to the courthouse, you're going to take care of legal business. You don't need to take a firearm with you.
I agree on that.
That's what security's for.
Right.
But in retrospect, I'm not going to blame the person that thinks the only way they can feel safe nowadays is to carry a firearm. I get that. I'm not fixing to take a stand one way or the other on gun control. I will leave that to others to get crazy about that crap. But it falls down into the conversation of judgmentalism and where we draw the line. Dave talks
One place I do judgmental is draw a line is in my home. I mean, in society, you have to be judgmental sometimes out in the public. Like if you go to the grocery store and stuff, how do you know who that person is? Can you be judgmental of that person, even though meeting them for the first time or their actions?
My thought on that is I don't care. And here's why I don't care. If I go to the supermarket, and we'll use someplace big here in Texas, Walmart. If I go shopping into a Walmart, I'm there to take care of a particular business, do my business, and get the hell out. Now, if I'm there walking around shopping, okay, whatever. I keep out of the corner of my eye, I keep watch on other people. I do that just simply because of, my training, where I'm from, and the types of people that I know frequent supermarkets. But if I find myself prejudging, right? If I find myself walking into a supermarket prejudging all of the people in there, then I will find myself growing paranoid of the location, the situation, and the people, when in all reality, they're just in there doing the same thing I'm doing. Most of them. you're going to have that one psycho nut that might choose the Walmart that you're in to start shooting people, that might just happen to choose the Walmart you're in to commit mass murder, as it were. But my point is, if I spend my time enforcing judgment, enforcing judgmentalism on others before they ever get a chance to prove who they are or who they're not, do I not find myself in a situation where I become hyper paranoid? Dave says judgment is a unit of measurement. Being judgmental cuts us off from the divine, and also judges are and also, I think he's trying to say, also a judge of what we're made of. Well, yeah, but even that brings on another connotation, right? Divine judgmentalism. I know every religion that I have ever studied, with the exception of atheism, if they are a deity-based or divine-based or a spiritually based system with a deity structure, right, there is some kind of divine judgment upon passing from this life, and also while living of this life. You know, pagans believe in karma, cause and effect, momentum. Go ahead.
Huh? Where they at?
Cindy, we can hear you. You're on an open mic.
It's not cold.
Cindy, you're on an open mic.
Okay, go get them in. What? Huh? Huh. Alright, I'm going to church. Yes! Go away. Go listen to it.
Cindy, you're on an open mic.
Oh, sorry.
You might want to put it on TikTok.
I'm sorry, guys.
That's right. Life, right? Who am I to be judgmentalistic of your open mic? Now, I think you've started making a little funny sounds. We may have to mute you because this is a family channel. Anyway, I digress. See, Dave says, I mean judgmental as looking down on other people. Yeah. So, all in all reality, I think, I found the separation between judgmentalism and judgment. I would have thought one to be a definition and the other one to be an action. Judgmentalism being the action and judgment being the definition. But the way this person puts it over in the Washington Post and several others that I looked at, there's an actual definite separation between them. Cindy, is that practice discernment, not judgment? Yeah? Yeah? Don't know?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
found
talk
that.
now, Foodie.
I found that on the webpage. I'm just trying to see. I couldn't pronounce it. See if you guys can get it.
Well, the word looks like discernment.
Right. Well, it came from, I guess someone trying to, within the church, or any church, try not to be judgmental. And they said to be practice this. When it comes dealing with problems inside the church or anywhere, it's the culture.
Ding, ding, ding. The culture. I've been waiting on somebody to say that.
Yep.
Each society breeds a culture, right, within that society. Like, for example, each job builds a culture for within the particular departments of that job. So each department becomes a culture, and that culture builds a society and a hierarchy society within that department. So here we go all the way back around to cubicalism. The cubicalistic mentality that most humans seem to absolutely adore, and that is in spite of what they talk about, right? In spite of what they talk about, they want to be put in a box, in a jar, and a lid put on it, and they want to be safe from the rest of the world.
That's like we get so much stressed out. We go, I'm going in my box. I'm putting in the box, closing the lid.
Well, yeah, there is that. And I'll be the first one to admit, sometimes I like to roll up the sidewalks, lock the door, put a do not disturb sign out, and leave me the hell alone, man. But in my mind, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, in my mind, that's not being judgmental or practicing judgmentalism. By someone wanting to periodically disassociate themselves, or actually as a lifestyle disassociate themselves from society for whatever their reasons are, I don't care. It's not my business. What happens to people that disassociate themselves completely, totally from society? What happens when a single person, cuts themselves off from society to the point where they have no idea what society is doing?
Well, example, prisoners, they do not have society building. They are just like when in a prison, they don't have society.
Yes, they do.
They have, well, prison society, but outside.
Yeah, but prison society is harsh. Each group within a prison is a society within of itself. I know when I was doing prison ministry, we had the pagan group had to have guards stand outside the front door so that the less open-minded prisoners would not try to attack us while we were in there doing class or doing pagan church or whatever they called it. And the same thing happens, and I talked to a couple of Catholic priests that does prison ministry for the Catholics. they have the same thing. They have to have guards outside the door to keep less open-minded prisoners from attacking the meeting. So yeah.
I think so.
Well, I mean, not really, because you would think, unless you knew, you would think that prison is just a whole bunch of people stuck behind bars, but it's not. And wardens will tell you every prison has a different society structure, and it's the same way in what they call the free world, so to speak, what prisoners call the free world.
In other words, judgmental was everywhere.
Right. But here's a rhetorical question, I guess. Where does judgmentalism begin? Where does it come from? What do you think it starts? At what age? At what time in society? At what point did judgmentalism actually come around? Any ideas?
I'd like to say, like, when you're growing up, because you have your parents, you have your teachers, you have your spiritual leaders, you have, when you're developing as a child, you're learning your right and wrong, and your superiors, I guess you would say, are the ones that are teaching you and guiding you.
Wouldn't it be back farther than that?
What?
I said, wouldn't it be back farther than that when you're being developed by your parents or family?
That's what I said.
Well, I think the point Cindy's trying to make is kind of the point I was alluding to. Lucy, you're absolutely right. But if we go back, it begins with the beginning of time. Even Dave says, it begins when we're young. And as we grow older, we tend to lose that magic. But it's deeper than that. It's older than that. It's further back than that. It's ancestral. And you think about the study of the clans. And of course, my Scottish roots run deep. And I've studied the clan societies and the way they interacted. The clans would come together a couple of times a year, most of them once a year, depending on how far out they lived. But they would come together once a year for the great gatherings, right? Some of them happened at Stonehenge, some of them happened at Kilmartin. Any place there was a great stone circle, there were gatherings. As their society started growing larger, then they started building more and more stone circles in which they could practice their belief system. But judgmentalism, and I have not heard anybody say the word yet that is the biggest proponent of judgmentalism.
Fill us in.
Ignorance.
It's true.
Ignorance. Ignorance is the biggest proponent of judgmentalism in the world. Not America, not the UK, not China, Japan, whatever. Ignorance is the biggest proponent, accelerant of judgmentalism. Human beings naturally are afraid of things they don't understand. There is a whole thick book on what they call syndromes, fear syndromes, everything from agoraphobia to arachnophobia to, hell, I don't know, paperophobia, vapophobia, which is new, coffeeophobia, hell, I don't know. But ignorance is the biggest proponent and accelerant of judgmentalism. And we've talked all around it this morning. If you're different than everyone else, you're an outcast, right? Pagan groups are notorious for judgmentalism. I know for a fact that Cindy, Lucy, and Clint, who's normally here, I know that Dave has experienced it. I'm not sure about Lee or anyone else, but I'm sure everyone at some point in their lives, at some time within their spiritual path, has experienced judgmentalism from another group, grove, coven, whatever.
I was just in that probably about 2 weeks ago.
So, I mean, yeah, you know, these groups talk about, we want to become a unified pagan nation. There are several websites, and I think it's called the United Pagan Nations, whatever. Anyway, they've been around for a long time. But the absolute befuddlement that fascinated the hell out of me when I started looking into them and reading some of their, bylaws, if you will. Damned if they don't enforce judgmentalism just like everybody else does. And some of the rules that some of these places enforce on others is fascinating. Now, tooting our own horn here, the only major rule that House of Pagans and Open Pagan Church has is respect. Respect others for their opinions, their way of life. You don't have to agree. It's perfectly fine to agree to disagree, but learn from other people. I've never been one to pound the gavel and sit here and be judgmental of other religious philosophies and what have you. If I say something that I feel is factual, I feel like I should be able to back it up. And when we step into the ring of judgmentalism, we step into the ring of judgment, we find ourselves walking on very shaky ground. Because I am always reminded, if I'm willing to judge someone for something that they're doing, they've done, or they haven't done, am I willing to have that same judgment placed upon me for having done, maybe shouldn't have done, maybe could have done the same things? So in the chat, we are 15 minutes past the hour. In the chat and in Discord, can anybody mention any words or letters of enforcement or advice to the younger people that are coming into the pagan philosophy, people that are trying to break away from judgmentalism societies? Anyone?
Well, with our pagan society, we try not to be judgmental. We are open-minded. We'll be able to listen to other people, other religions, and have an open mind.
Also, don't take things personally.
Yeah. Who would know anybody that does that?
Nah, I have no idea.
Being too sensitive. Wearing one's heart on their sleeve, so to speak, type thing.
The hardest thing to do, not to do that.
It is. Absolutely it is. So let's kind of close it down with this. I'm absolutely grateful that you guys were able to attend and be here, because this was this particular broadcast was absolutely not planned. It hit me last night as I was getting ready to go to bed, and I thought, well, okay, let's jump up and get it without any further testing and see what happens. It played out pretty good, I think. So
You did a good job, Don.
it's not just me.
We all did.
Right. So, absolutely. I mean, you guys. I got too much shit open on my desktop. There we go. When we step out in society, and when we're looking at others for the way they live and for the way they act, should we not pay closer attention to ourselves, especially when it comes to judgmentalism? I think that we should all step up to the plate, so to speak, and protect and defend those who have the freedom to live their lifestyle and be left alone by others. That's just my opinion. I want to remind everybody that we are simulcast on Discord. There is a non-expiring link in the description of this channel. I also want to remind everybody that at 11 o'clock Central Time, 11 a.m. Central Time, on Sundays, we do Live with a Shaman. Yep, we'll be there this morning. Well, thank you all for watching. Have a great day. And always remember, think about what you're doing before you try to judge other people for the things in which you may not can judge yourself on. Thank you again for watching Open Pagan Church, and we'll see you next time right here.